nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify with you and God in time are best aligned.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folk try to ignore us. So we at the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanized so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, not at the White House, but right here in KBLA's house here in LA. I am delighted to be with each and every one of you. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast to catch some of the best episodes we have to offer. Now, before I go any further, let me just start by wishing everybody a happy Veterans Day. I don't know about you, but there are a number of veterans, generations of veterans in my family, particularly on my mom's side. And one very special veteran, my own brother, John Quartey. Happy Veterans Day to all. On this day, of course, we pause to recognize the countless veterans whose courage has really helped build the freedom that they were often denied. And so I'm thinking of all of our veterans today, but particularly our Black veterans, where there's a long history of Black veterans not getting their due, from the Buffalo Soldiers to the Tuskegee Airmen, from the Harlem Hellfighters of World War I to the heroes of Iraq and Afghanistan. Black service members, they have fought for our nation, this nation, that didn't always fight for them. And so I saw mention of this on Instagram because of them. And so I want to give them a shout out. And again, happy Veterans Day to all on this November 11th. Now, time for your national news roundup. Time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off just moments before we came on air, the Associated Press reporting that the Supreme Court extends its order blocking full SNAP benefits with shutdown potentially near an end. The Supreme Court today extended an order blocking full SNAP benefits amid signals that the government shutdown could soon end and food aid payments resume. The order keeps in place, at least for a few more days, a really chaotic situation where people who depend on SNAP, otherwise known as the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, to feed their families, in some states have received their full monthly allocation, while others have received nothing. The order, which is 3 sentences long and comes with no explanation on the court's thinking. It will expire just before midnight on Thursday. The Senate, of course, has approved a bill to end the shutdown, and the House of Representatives could vote on it as early as Wednesday. Reopening the government would restart the program that helps 42 million Americans buy groceries, but it's not clear how quickly full payments will resume. In other news, speaking of the shutdown, USA Today reporting that lawmakers face one last big hurdle to end the shutdown. Can you guess what it is? I'll give you a hint. I had a heck of a situation coming back to LA. I'm talking about flying. But for them, it's flying to DC. Congress has itself a good old-fashioned chicken egg problem in getting out of the government shutdown. Speaker Johnson needs enough members of the House of Representatives to make it back to Washington by Wednesday night to vote to reopen the government. Now, here's the rub. The shutdown is causing travel issues so widespread that those very lawmakers may not all get back to DC in time to do their jobs. Yikes. For nearly 2 months, many House members have been residing in their districts while the Speaker kept them away from Washington and their day jobs voting on bills, kept them away from doing that. The pressure tactic was meant to force Democratic senators into reopening the government without major concessions from Republicans. But by Sunday, of course, when lawmakers and the Senate finally reached this bipartisan deal to end the crisis, nearly half of all domestic flights were either canceled or delayed. I know. And so let's hope that the lawmakers, at least enough lawmakers, make it to Washington by Wednesday night to cast this vote so the government can reopen. And people who depend on SNAP are going to get those SNAP benefits. Government workers like the TSA agents I spoke with on my travel from DC to LA, they're going to finally get paid after almost 6 weeks of not getting paid. That's 2 pay periods of not getting paid. Now, I know people are still, mad as HE double hockey sticks that these 8 Democratic senators blinked. A lot of people that were like, okay, we're experiencing a lot of pain, right? But it was a righteous fight. A lot of people thought, the Democratic base certainly thought that. Independents thought that. But 8 Democratic senators, they thought differently. Speaking of thinking differently, The Guardian is reporting that the Trump administration is planning to allow oil and gas drilling right here off the coast of California. The Trump administration is planning to allow oil and gas drilling off the coast of Cali for the first time in decades. It's according to a draft plan that was shared by folks over at the Washington Post. The move is guaranteed to set up a battle with Governor Gavin Newsom, a staunch opponent of offshore drilling. The plan would include 6 offshore lease sales between 2027 and 2030. And that would be along the California coast, as well as the expansion of drilling in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, which Donald Trump renamed the Gulf of America. You remember that? Yeah. Drilling has typically been avoided in the area due to fears from Florida Democrats and Republicans around beach pollution and overall negative impact on tourism. Governor Newsom, of course, rebuked the proposal while attending the COP30 climate summit in Brazil, which the Trump administration chose to skip, breaking with precedent. The California governor told reporters that the plan to restart drilling off the coast would be dead on arrival in California. We shall see. And speaking of seeing or not seeing, NPR is reporting that a U.S. appeals order to use American Sign Language interpreters at the White House briefing this is a strange one. Because like of all the things, really, you're going to pick a fight with the American Sign Language folks? Well, that's exactly what it appears is taking place. The Department of Justice is appealing a federal judge's order requiring the White House to immediately begin providing American Sign Language interpretation at its press briefings with President Trump or Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt when they're speaking. In court filings on Friday, the district judge told the Justice Department they were requesting clarification on which types of events have ASL interpretation available. The DOJ said it believes the service should be limited to regularly scheduled briefings and not other events where the president takes questions from the press. It notified the U.S. District Court of Columbia that the White House's current vendor agreement for ASL interpretive services requires 24 hours notice. So if you need sign language interpretation, you may be out of luck, because it looks like this White House ain't trying to do all that. When we come forward, we're switching gears. I am delighted to welcome a More Perfect Union contributor, Jamar Reed. He is who I like to think of as our data justice correspondent. And we're going to talk to him about these data centers that are powering this AI boom. There's a study that lists some of the best states to build them in. We're going to get his views on that. And then there was an op-ed published in the New York Times today that really delved into this AI revolution and what's called the algocracy, ruling government by algorithm. We're going to talk about that and more when we come forward. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Here for the Lowe's early Black Friday deals? You're right on time for some of our biggest savings. We're talking up to 50% off select major appliances, plus up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. Holiday lights going up soon? Select ladders are up to 50% off right now. Get Black Friday prices without the Black Friday crowds. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 11/19. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
This Thanksgiving at Total Wine & More, find bourbons and Cabernets that you adore. Our helpful guides are so friendly and nice. So many bottles to try at the lowest price. So gather with friends as you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With curbside pickup and delivery available and the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Dateline Friday, November 7, 2025. Dear Mr. Pizarro, I hope that this letter finds you well. As you know, last evening, KBLA Talk 1580 hosted an Altadena town hall entitled Understanding the Wildfire Recovery Compensation Fund. The venue was at capacity, and as KBLA has maintained all along, no plaintiff's counsel was involved in any aspect of the program, such that Southern California Edison could well have participated per its initial commitment in writing on October 7, 2025. That said, in both private communications and public pronouncements, we note that SCE has offered to appear on KBLA Talk 1580 to address the Altadena community regarding its fast pay program, which was discussed in depth at last night's gathering. We would like to accept SCE's offer and invite you, Mr. Pizarro, to appear on KBLA's nationally syndicated radio program, Tavis Smiley. The show broadcasts weekdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are happy for you to choose any day, any hour for a live in-studio conversation. Please let us know which day and time work best for you. We look forward to welcoming you to our studios in Leimert Park. Sincerely, Tavis Smiley, founder, Smiley Audio Media, Inc., Chief Visionary Officer, KBLA Talk 1580, host Tavis Smiley. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and delighted to welcome back to the show one of our frequent contributors. I affectionately think of him as our data justice correspondent, Jamar Reed. He is a Morehouse man and a Kappa man, and he is the founder of District Analyst LLC. He's a seasoned data scientist with decades of experience guiding organizations to harness data for strategic advantage. He is the right person at the right time for this conversation. Welcome back to the show, Jamar.
Thank you, Dr. Quartey. I have to correct you on one thing. I am a Kappa man through and through, but I am not a Morehouse man. I don't want the audience coming for me.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm so used to you appearing with Dr. Jonathan Collins, who is a Morehouse man. I must have been Dr. Jonathan.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So no worries. And so first things first, I want to talk to you about these data centers. And you've been on before, and we broached the subject. I don't think folks are talking enough about these data centers, the impact that they will have, both the economic impact, the environmental impact that they're going to have in communities across the country. Fast Company recently published an article about how these data centers have huge water and carbon impacts, and how building them in certain states could help reduce that. Talk to us about, tell us something that we don't know about these data centers, which on the surface seem like a good thing. Seems like they're going to create jobs. It seems like, organizations that are being built to literally power the future. But there's a dark side to them, no?
Yeah. So one of the things that as I was preparing for this conversation, and something that surprised me that I didn't know, that these data centers are already at this point reported to be consuming about 4% of the nation's electricity, which I don't know about you, but that was a surprise to me. And then as I was starting to look further into it, we look at where these data centers are being set up. The folks that are typically, these data centers are being set up in and around our communities, and the folks in those communities are starting to see spikes in their utility bills, which also was not a surprise to me, because I'd read it other places, and we're starting to see reports of that. But again, it's affecting folks that are already struggling, folks that are already looking at their electricity bills and their water bills, and looking for relief in those areas as utilities start to rise. Just understanding, yes, it's reported that these data centers will contribute more jobs, they will contribute more economic opportunities. But what do we have to give up in exchange for that? And understand, and in my opinion, transparency is important. In the line of business that I'm in, when I present a proposal to a client, they expect transparency. What am I paying for? What am I receiving? And it's my responsibility to provide that. So I think there is some good there, but I think that we're not speaking a lot about what we're giving up, and that's the question I have, Dr. Q.
Yeah, I mean, and just as you lay that thing out, I'm thinking about communities like Jackson, Mississippi, for example, where there may be a sort of a data center that's going up sort of nearby, and I'm thinking, okay, these are cities that have a long and very well documented series of challenges related to access to clean water for everyday use, and so there are a number of residents in communities across the country that are raising concerns about the enormous amount of water and electricity that these data centers are going to need. These are two major ways in which these projects impact the environment. Is there a world where the high interest and investment in these data centers might actually help to expedite fixes to water infrastructure and electricity grids that have not been modernized fast enough?
Yeah, I love where you're going with that, Dr. Q. And I was thinking about it. I live in Washington D.C. and many of our historic communities, we are starting to see other folks move in. And as we see folks move in, we see access to some of the amenities and that we've been asking for a very long time start to become available. So I think that's the place where we use our ability to have conversation and to challenge those that we put into office, to make sure that if we're going to be experiencing higher electricity bills and water bills, what do we get in exchange for that? What happens with our infrastructure if we're going to be footing the bill for other folks outside of our community to have access to the data that's going to be stored and transitioned back and forth out of these data centers? What are we getting in exchange? And it may be, and to your point, it may be that we're getting that we're able to negotiate movement on access that we've not been able to get movement on thus far. So definitely, I love where you're going with that. Yeah.
I mean, just moments ago at the top of the show, I was sharing, that the Trump administration is moving to allow oil drilling off the coast of California. And of course, the Governor Newsom and members of the California state legislature, are already, ready to squabble up against the administration to prevent that from happening. But to the point made earlier about the growing impact of AI, we know that these data centers demand a lot of electricity that's straining our energy grid. And, these data centers, the surge has also delayed the planned retirement of coal plants. And so if you're having the retirement of these coal plants being delayed, and you have an administration right now that is all about, giving private industry the leases to drill along the California coast, to drill up in Alaska, can we put the toothpaste back in the tube? Is there any advocacy that folks can do to maybe not prevent it, but at least to mitigate the negative effects of these data centers?
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you there, and I think that's a good point. It's once you allow access, once you open up the ability to drill, typically we don't see that pull it back. And as you were stating about the coal plants, it's there may be a plan to limit that or to start to close them, but you see what they will quickly delay that closing if it's to the benefit of industry, of folks that are making money off of these plants. So definitely on the front end, before we've gone into it, and if we're not able to stop it, I think this is the time where you put in you put in place, and the way we do this is pushing our elected officials to make sure that if they're going to move forward with drilling and with opening up these oil fields out in the ocean, that there's transparency in place that's put up on the front end. There's a plan for how do we make sure that these companies aren't able to leave the citizens in the dark about what's going on and also how to protect our environment during that time. So I think this is where we as constituents press our elected officials to make sure that we're being well represented during these negotiations.
Yeah, I really want to make the connection between these data centers and AI, because part of the reason why these data centers are all the rage is because artificial intelligence is all the rage. And you need these data centers in order to be able to power the artificial intelligence technology that we all enjoy. Every time you call Miss Siri, every time you call Alexa, every time you're on Google's Gemini, right? Or Perplexity or Chat GPT, whatever AI powered tool you're using. Don't just think that that's being powered by the thin air, right? It takes energy in order to process those results. And as our lives become more integrated with AI technologies, we're going to need more and more and more energy. And so that's why there's this op-ed that was published in the New York Times today that really caught my attention. It was really a guest essay by Eric Schmidt and Andrew Sorda. Eric Schmidt, of course, the former chief executive and chairman of Google, and Andrew Sorda, who was Mr. Schmidt's head of research. They published this guest essay entitled, "This is No Way to Rule a Country." And in this essay, they talk about how a majority of adults across 12 income countries said that they're dissatisfied with the way their democracy is working. And they see dissatisfaction manifest in a number of different ways. But it raises this question as to whether or not, AI is the answer, right? If we were to turn over certain controls to algorithms, for example, might that help us to get less partisan outcomes, less biased outcomes? When we come forward, I'm going to give Jamar Reed, the co-founder of District Analysts, a chance to respond to that as we make the connection between these data centers, AI, and our communities. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is defending police after weekend clashes in Little Village, blaming ICE agents for the chaos.
Our police department did not enforce civil immigration policy or law.
He said police officers were not involved in immigration enforcement and urged residents not to let Border Patrol actions damage community trust. Former service members honored Black veterans buried at Rose Hill Cemetery in Manassas, Virginia, a historic site dating back to the 1800s. Members of the VFW and American Legion placed a memorial bench and plan to add flags on Memorial and Veterans Day with wreaths next month. And Sean Diddy Combs has entered a drug rehab program at New Jersey's Fort Dix prison, which could cut a year off of his sentence. He's serving over 4 years for a prostitution-related conviction. His team says he struggled with addiction but got sober before sentencing. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Sun Valley, it's a crash on the 5 northbound at Sheldon. That's where the 2 left lanes have been blocked. Delays away from Penrose. East LA on the 5 southbound at Dittman. It's a stall taking out the 3 left lanes, waiting for a tow truck with a slow drive coming off of the 10, and it's starting to connect to pretty crowded traffic out of Los Feliz from Los Feliz Boulevard. Also, let's head out to the drive in Rancho Cucamonga. They got a stall out of lanes 15 northbound at Foothill, and traffic is picking up away from Cantu Galliano Ranch Road.
Hard rock style is coming to the Central Valley, just 15 miles south of Bakersfield off Route 99. You'll find world-class gaming and entertainment. Less drive time equals more playtime. The all-new Hard Rock Casino Tejon, opening November 13th.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Dallas Mavericks owner Patrick Dumont needs to be put on blast. Tuesday morning, Dumont fired Mavs general manager Nico Harrison, one of 12 black GMs in the NBA. Dumont fired Harrison because the trade Harrison made last season with the Lakers, Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic, has been a disaster for the Mavericks. The Mavs are 3-8 and Davis is hurt again. Meanwhile, the Lakers are 8-3 and Luka is balling. averaging 37.1 points. Yes, Harrison did reach out to Lakers GM Rob Pelinka to discuss the trade, but Dumont signed off on the deal before it was finalized. No trades in any sport are made without ownership approval. The real crime committed by Dumont is that he let Harrison take all the abuse and death threats from angry Mavs fans upset about losing Luka. Dumont never talked to the media to let the fans know that it was his decision to trade Luka. Harrison now knows what kind of person he was working for. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We are live in afternoon drive time. And before we return to the conversation with Jamar Reed, the co-founder and managing partner of District Analyst and our favorite data justice correspondent, we just want to remind each and every one of our leader learners and listeners that if you see Pedro Pizarro, who is the president and CEO of Southern California Edison, you might want to remind him that we want to hear from him. You know, Southern California Edison, of course, made a commitment to the people of Altadena. They made a commitment to KBLA for an interview to take some questions on the compensation fund, take some questions on some of the work that they're doing to make the people of Altadena whole in one way, shape, or form. And so Pedro Pizarro, this is, I think, day number 4, where we're sitting right here by the phone waiting to hear from you. And so Pedro Pizarro, paging Pedro Pizarro, like the alliteration there. There you have it. All right. Now, in other news, we want to talk about artificial intelligence. We've been talking quite a bit about these data centers that are popping up across the country at breakneck speed. And we talked about the dark side of them, but these data centers don't exist in a vacuum. They exist to power the AI technology that so many of us may take for granted. But let's zoom out for a little bit and make it not just about us, but let's think about this as a country. Let's think about this as a global community. That's at least what Eric Schmidt, the former chief executive and chairman of Google, along with his head of research, Andrew Sororta, attempted to do in a guest essay published today in the New York Times entitled, "This is No Way to Rule a Country." The piece opens up by talking about, of all places, Albania, a country, really the first country to take a real step towards what's called the algocracy, which is a government by algorithm. Let me explain. In September, its prime minister announced that all decisions concerning which private suppliers would provide goods and services to Albania's government, over $1 billion annually, by the way, would be made by an AI avatar named Diela. Albania has long suffered from corruption, particularly in this realm. And so the thinking around this is that the unbiased, competent, algorithmic Diela is thought to be the solution. Jamar, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, immediately I start to think about the fact that, something that I wrote a while back, and just reading back on a quote I made, that freedom begins when we build institutions we control. And what we see here is, in tonight's example, is that we're handing over control to an AI algorithm. And the problem with the AI with AI and algorithms is that code has to be written. Typically, at least code has to be started. Like, you start to write the code, and in some cases, the technology takes over and starts to write code on top of that. That's what. But overall, there's always going to be bias because these algorithms are going to be written by humans. So we're going to write our bias in the code, and then and the fear is that we allow AI to make decisions. I should say this: I'm not 100% opposed to AI being a tool that's used in conversations around how we govern. But when we turn decision making over to AI and technology, that's where I give pause.
And that's really one of the central points that they make in this essay, is rather than replace democracy with artificial intelligence, they're making the argument that we must instead use artificial intelligence to reinvigorate democracy, to make it more responsive, more deliberative, more worthy of the public trust. But I'm a little leery of this argument, particularly coming from the former chairman of Google,
right?
Because the reality is that we cannot trust this technology to govern itself.
Right.
And and I know that we have seen both the Trump administration and the Biden administration attempt to create some guardrails around the use of artificial intelligence, the ethical use of artificial intelligence. There is no legislation that exists at the moment. There is no law that exists that says to private industry, these are the acceptable, responsible, ethical ways in which you're allowed to use AI technologies in the United States. And so without that, is this just sort of, a pinky promise,
right,
to do right by this nation, by this democracy, with the use of AI, promising that we're not going to do anything bad with it?
Right. I think the perfect example is the current administration has already shown that they're willing to test the guardrails that are currently in place with our current democracy, and to test the laws in a way that, if the guardrails didn't exist, imagine where we would be today. So in the same sense, with regard to AI, I think that it's important that not only that we create guardrails, but that it's important who's in the room when those guardrails are created. As citizens of the United States, are we, should make sure that that it's not just business that's in the room when those decisions are made, or those in government making those decisions, but there should be folks that we as citizens are sending up and making sure that we're looking out for the best interests of all citizens in the United States. And I should even extend that, as other governments are starting to use AI with regard to enforcement. And something I read earlier was that over 60 governments are starting to pull AI in for decisions around enforcement, law enforcement. And so that's, to me, it's important about who's in the room when those decisions are made around guardrails, but then also understanding where we are today, and we have a perfect test case for what happens when folks are those that have political ambition are willing to test the guardrails that are already in place. So I'm not in a trusting space right now. So I'm definitely for creating guardrails and making sure that these are guardrails that will stand up against folks that would look to manipulate them. So
yeah, and this seems to me to be something that we shouldn't just defer to any presidential administration on, but there are plenty of mayors and city council presidents, governors, and leaders of legislative bodies that should be paying extra close attention to this. In the piece, they mentioned that when algorithms determine, say, budget allocation or public benefits with no explanation and no appeal, the result is the same alienation and disillusionment we're already seeing from distant and unresponsive institutions, except now that there's no one to hold accountable. And so with human dignity relegated to an afterthought, polarization deepens and trust erodes further. And so I think that helps to make the point that it really isn't one or the other. It isn't, human centered solutions versus, AI centered solutions. That, we've got to embrace both, but we've got to be transparent when we do it. We've got to make sure that we are disclosing so that the people that are getting the result of such collaboration, they know how folks sort of arrived, at those decisions. Are there any examples of municipalities, here in this country or abroad that you think, are worthy, of us looking at, taking a closer look at, as perhaps a gold standard of some sorts in this conversation?
Dr. Q, you have me on that one, because I'm trying to think about a municipality that would be a great example. One thing I would throw out there across all is the right for the people, those that are being serviced by and supported by these local governments, the right to audit, and the right to have that audit take place outside of the organization, the right to have an outside organization that is separate from, be able to audit the code, audit the technology, make sure that it's doing what we as citizens are entrusting it to do, alongside the humans and the politicians that are in place, working alongside the AI. So I think it's important that we have that audit ability in place as well.
No, I think you're right. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I saw this piece in the Washington Post about how women feel about Trump's presidency, and it's a range of feelings, from heartbreak to fatigue to even gratitude. When we come forward, I'm going to share a little bit about what the women in this piece have said and reflecting on the Trump presidency a year in. And I want to give Jamar an opportunity to reflect on what he's hearing, particularly from the men out there and the data community, the data justice community, I should say, out there, what he's hearing from them 1 year into the Trump presidency. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Jamar Reed, co-founder of district analyst.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that deeply impacts Black families. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalsearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
The holidays can be a time of increased stress for those struggling with opioid or stimulant addiction. They can also be a time for pause, reflection, opportunity, and new beginnings. This holiday season, choose treatment and recovery. Embrace the company of family and friends and create special moments. Find a proven opioid or stimulant addiction treatment provider near you at choosechangeca.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai. He's Jamar Reed. He is one of our frequent contributors. I think of him as our data justice correspondent. And speaking of data, the Washington Post recently reached out to more than 5,000 women, heard back from nearly 500, and published a piece today with selected responses, edited for length and clarity, of course, around the question of how women feel about the Trump presidency. We are 1 year into Donald Trump's second term, and the responses range from heartbreak to fatigue to gratitude. I want to share just a few of them that really sort of stood out to me. Some of them made me wonder, well, what universe are some of these folks existing in? But Sarah Robinson, who's 46, she's an internet analyst, a food blogger, and an indie children's author from Woodstock, Georgia. She said, quotes, "I think he's doing a good job. I definitely feel sorry when I see families and children separated. This is not easy for me to watch, honestly, but each country has its own laws. And if any people are breaking the law, that's unfortunately what's going to happen." There was another woman, a program manager for a software company in Centerville, Virginia, Krista, who said, quotes, "What's become more disheartening is that people understood what they were voting for. They just didn't think it would impact them. They were fine with it because they thought it was going to impact someone else. And now I think some of these folks are starting to see that, oh, wait, when I voted this way, it was supposed to not come here to me. And that enrages me. But I'm also just sitting back and I'm watching, right? Like, no, this is exactly what you voted for. You knew, you just didn't think it would affect you. Rachel Escobar, 19 years old, college student from Austin, Texas, says, quotes, "I'm frustrated with Democrats in Congress and all these other government agencies and their inability to do anything to stop him." And Rachel Lang, 29, a behavior analyst from Waukesha, Wisconsin, says, quotes, "It seems like the country is getting more conservative, where there's concerns about people speaking out against Trump or making jokes about Trump. I think that's something that's really concerning, fear of being able to speak out." These are certainly what we've heard from the Washington Post, their experiment reaching out to, again, 5,000 women and hearing from nearly 500 about how they feel about the Trump presidency. But Jamar, I want to give you an opportunity to share, how you're reflecting on the Trump presidency 1 year in, and what are you hearing from, the community of men and sort of data justice oriented individuals and leaders out there. How are the folks in your orbit reflecting on Trump 1 year in?
Yeah, I'm listening, and I got lost in listening to you as you spoke about the experiences of women throughout the United States. And one thing I love about the article is that it's pulling information from all sides. And one thing, and I think back to my grandfather, 94 years old, back in Michigan, and I always used to wonder as he flipped between channels, and I asked him, I said, why do you have the channel on this station? He said, "I need to know what everyone is saying from all sides, and I need to have an understanding of even those that disagree with my point of view. I have to have an understanding of that." And I just remember that. But I think as a Black man, and not able to speak for women, but talking about the fact about what's going, as you said, in my orbit, I think about the fact that this administration and this time, in my conversation, it has taught me where we as a community may have relied on folks that don't have our best interest in mind. And this is showing us where possibly people that have access to make decisions about our community have the ability to pull back when it harms us, or to dangle in front of us decisions that likely could be the difference between whether a family eats or not, or whether a family has a full meal versus having to spread that meal out, and that's heartbreaking. And I just think about there's an article I wrote a while back, and a quote, I can't remember where this quote: give a man the power to feed you, and you give him the power to starve you. And what we're seeing today is someone and people that are comfortable with pulling that lever to show us that they have the power to starve us. And I just think about, how do we get that? How do we gather that power back? How do we make sure that no one else has the key to, or the lever to pull the ability to pull that lever? So those are my thoughts, kind of, just off the top, and conversations I'm having with friends and colleagues, not just here in DC, but around the nation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to process. Every day there's a swirl of headlines. It feels chaotic because it's intended to be chaotic. It's intended to move people to check out. It's intended to push people to not have a line of sight as to what their government is doing in their name. And that's part of the reason why this program exists. This is part of the reason why KBLA exists, is because we believe that it is important to offer people a place where they can come for their daily political news digest, where they can hear from experts in the field, folks who have informed opinions, and where they can also zoom out a little bit and hear from folks who are shaping the culture through their art, shaping the culture through their work on the front lines, through their work and witness, dare I say. And so that is what we will continue to do. That's the community of leaders, learners, and listeners that we have co-created and will continue to co-create. And my thanks to District Analyst co-founder Jamar Reed for his reflections on the Trump presidency 2.0. And for folks who are interested in learning more about what some of the nation's women had to say in this Washington Post article entitled "How Women Feel About Trump's Presidency: Heartbreak, Fatigue, and Gratitude," I encourage you to check out that piece by Alexandria Nini and Sarah Panetta. In our next hour, you're going to hear from Terrence Woodbury. He is the co-founder of Hit Strategies. He is one of the nation's leading political pollsters, and he has some really incredible insights that you don't want to miss. And a little bit later, you don't want to miss my conversation with comedian, actor, the man that comes from a legacy family that we all enjoy, Marlon Wayans, joins us in the latter half of the next hour. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Maryland Senator Angela Alsobrooks, who is Black, joined Senator Chris Van Hollen in voting against the federal funding bill to end the shutdown. Alsobrooks says it fails to help struggling Marylanders afford health care. The measure still passed at 60-40 and now heads to the House. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen has made history by appointing Douglas County Judge Derek Vaughn to the state Supreme Court, making Vaughn the first African American to serve on Nebraska's highest court.